His mom hated me for being poor. Until I paid off her debt. My name is Zhang Lihua, 26 years old, quiet, practical, and raised in a tailor shop tucked between dumpling stalls. I never wore diamonds. I wore resilience. And I thought love could silence status. Until his mother made me feel like dirt beneath her imported heels. The first time I met his mother, I wore my best dress. One I stitched myself, pale lavender with hand-sewn pearls. She looked at it like it was a rag. "You're the seamstress girl?" she asked, blinking slowly. "He didn't tell me you were this kind of plain." I smiled politely. "I made this myself, Madame Lu. It's not much." "Exactly," she cut in. "It's not." The tea tray in my hand shook slightly, but I kept my voice steady. "I understand it's hard to accept." "Hard? No. Impossible. My son deserves someone who doesn't have to count coins before dinner." The word stung. Not because I hadn't heard worse, but because I thought love would shield me from this. Clearly I was wrong. I placed the tea gently before her. She picked it up, sipped once, and spat it out. "Too bitter. Just like your intentions." My boyfriend Howard tried to defend me, but she silenced him with a glance. "If you marry her, you'll lose your inheritance. Your father's estate. Everything." I stood, bowed, and whispered, "Thank you for the tea, madam." Then I walked out, not because I was weak, but because I knew silence says more than begging ever will. Still, I cried that night. Because no matter how hard I worked, I'd always be the girl from the tailor's alley in her eyes. Until one day, fate handed me the power she thought I'd never hold. A week after that humiliating tea meeting, I got a call from an unknown number. "Miss Zhang? We're calling regarding a private auction of debt assets. Your name was listed as a silent offeror." I blinked. The words didn't register until the woman on the line said the name. "Lu Holdings. Personal debt. 7 million yuan. Transferred to your ownership effective immediately." My heart stilled. Madame Lu was in debt? Turns out, the lavish estate, the imported handbags, the heirloom pearls, all a facade. Behind the marble floors were crumbling loans and unpaid taxes. She'd mortgaged almost everything to save face. I had quietly been investing the past 5 years, sewing commissions, vintage flips, even custom wedding gowns. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't helpless either. And now her biggest creditor was me. I didn't tell Howard. Not yet, because power used for revenge feels sweet for a moment. But power used with grace leaves a legacy. That night I walked past the estate gates again. The guards remembered me. This time they didn't stop me. She was in the garden, pruning roses. Her eyes narrowed. "What are you doing here?" I handed her an envelope. She opened it. Saw the debt transfer certificate. Her lips parted. Then froze. "What game is this?" I didn't smile. I didn't flinch. "It's not a game, Madame Lu. It's dignity. The same thing you tried to strip from me." She staggered back. "Why would you do this?" I answered honestly. "Because your son loves you. And I love him. And neither of you deserve to lose each other over money or pride." She looked at me for a long time. Then, for the first time, she didn't have something cruel to say. She just nodded. "Leave it with me." I turned to go. And for the first time ever, she didn't call me poor. The next week, I returned to work at the tailoring studio. Back to measuring inseams and hemming dresses for brides who didn't know my name. But something shifted. Madame Lu didn't call Howard as often. Didn't ask where I was, or whether he was still ruining his lineage. Instead, she came to my studio. Unannounced. She stood near the entrance, perfectly dressed, obviously out of place, like silk trying to blend with linen. "You work here?" I nodded. "It's my shop." She stepped in slowly, her heels echoing on the wooden floor. She ran a hand over a dress in progress. The fabric shimmered. "It's beautiful." I didn't know if she meant the gown. Or finally saw me. Then she did something unthinkable. "Saturday, tell me something," she said. "If you had real money, real status, would you still be doing this?" I looked her in the eye. "Madame Lu, I do have money. And yes, I'd still be here. Because this isn't just stitching. It's what saved me when I had nothing." She studied me, searching for cracks in my confidence. But there weren't any. Not anymore. Before she left, she paused by the door. My family has hosted a mid-autumn gala every year since the Republic era. I nodded. I know. I've seen it in the magazines. She turned. You're invited. Not as a guest. Not as help. As Howren's partner. And just like that, a war waged in silence had ended with an invitation. But deep down I knew. I wasn't just winning her approval. I was earning something far rarer, her respect. And maybe, just maybe, her apology would come without words. The Liu family's mid-autumn gala was like something out of a dream. Crystal chandeliers. A string quartet. Guests wearing dresses that cost more than my entire year's rent. I walked in beside Howren, wearing a silk gown I made myself. Soft moon white. Embroidered with silver cranes. Modest but regal. The moment we stepped in, silence fell. Then whispers. Is that her? The tailor's daughter? Why is she walking like she owns the place? I kept my head high. Not because I wanted to impress them, but because the girl who used to measure hems in back alleys was now measuring herself against no one. Madame Liu stood at the top of the staircase, dressed in jade, radiant. She raised her glass. Tonight, she said, we honor tradition, and the courage it takes to carry it forward. Then she looked directly at me. Courage like Lihua's. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Even Howren blinked in surprise. But I just smiled softly. Later that night she pulled me aside. Her voice low, almost brittle. You remind me of someone I used to be. Before wealth turned me bitter. I didn't say anything. I just listened. Because sometimes healing doesn't sound like an apology. Sounds like honesty. You didn't have to save me, she said. I didn't, I replied. I saved Howren's mother. Her eyes glistened. You're going to make this family better. And I'm sorry for not seeing it sooner. Then she did something I never expected. She took off the jade bracelet on her wrist, one passed down for generations, and gently placed it on mine. Welcome to the family, daughter. And just like that, the woman who once spat out my tea, who saw me as nothing, now gave me the weight of her legacy willingly. Weeks passed. Life slowed. And so did her judgments. Madame Liu began visiting the shop, not as a critic but as a client. She admired my embroidery. She even smiled when Howren kissed my cheek. One afternoon, she brought in an old qipao from her youth. Can you restore it? She asked. It belonged to my mother. The silk was faded, the threads worn. But I nodded. Give me 3 weeks. When I returned it, she wept quietly. She didn't say thank you. She just held my hands. That meant more than words. At our wedding, she stood beside me, guiding the veil. She didn't call me daughter-in-law. She whispered, my daughter. Looking back, I don't resent her tests. I don't even hate the words that once cut me, because without them, I wouldn't have found my voice. I didn't climb into her world with revenge or ego. I walked steady, proud, bringing every broken piece of myself like a thread waiting to weave something whole. And that's what love does. It doesn't just heal. It restores. For every girl judged for where she comes from, let them see where you're going. And when they doubt your worth, don't raise your voice. Raise your value. If this story touched your heart, give it a like and share it with someone who's walking their quiet path. Subscribe for more stories where grace wins over status.